Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. I am so excited about today's video because we have some really awesome drugstore makeup that we're going to be trying out today. I have the new Wet n Wild Dewy foundation, the new e.l.f. hydrating concealers. I also have a few of the new e.l.f. bite-size eyeshadow palettes that we'll be trying out along with their eye putty primer. I've got a highlighter from Makeup Revolution and even a new lip product from Wet n Wild. So I hope that you guys are excited about this one. I am going to be doing a wear test today, and also some of these products I have tried out a few times before today because especially when it comes to complexion products, it takes me a little bit longer to figure out my thoughts on things, on whether I like them, whether they work for me or not. So I have been trying out the foundation concealer for a couple of days now, and I will share my thoughts with you at the end of this video today, but we are going to see how everything wears. I will check in with you guys at the end of the day and see how the makeup is holding up. Please forgive my voice in this video. I am getting over a cold and I just got done filming the makeup look and my voice is about gone. I hope that it comes back by the check-in tonight. But regardless, I hope that you guys are excited about this video and to see how these products work out for me. If you are new to my channel, special welcome to you. I hope that you'll consider subscribing if you have not done that yet. Also ring that notification bell if you would like to be notified every time I upload a new video. And with that said, let's jump right into the makeup. Alright guys, so we're going to start off with the complexion. I'm just going to add a little bit of my Garnier Illuminating Moisturizer before we go in with the foundation. And now we're going to jump straight into foundation. So I am trying out today the new Wet n Wild Dewy foundation. A couple of things about this one. I have tried it out a few times already. I wanted to have a good feel for this before I tried it out on camera with you guys. I just think that's more helpful when it comes to complexion products because I know that it takes me a little bit longer to wrap my mind around whether I like something or not, or how it best works for me. But I do have 3 shades of this foundation. I kind of unintentionally picked up 3 shades of this. I initially thought I only ordered 1 shade when I ordered this from Ulta's website, and then a few days later, before I actually got my order in, I noticed that my local Walmart had this in stock, and it was actually really even cheaper at Walmart than what I paid for on Ulta's website. I want to say in store at Walmart this only cost me around $4.50, $4.60 or something like that, so very affordable. So I decided to pick up another shade, and then when I got my Ulta box in, I noticed that I had 2 shades. So the 3 shades that I ended up with are the color Soft Ivory, the color Soft Beige, which is the darkest of the 3 I believe, and then also Shell Ivory. So I'm going to swatch these for you guys on camera. I know that camera swatches are not always the most accurate, but I do think it's helpful to see shades next to each other because you can kind of gauge undertones. So hopefully that will help you guys out a little bit. Let's start off with this first one, which I think is the lightest. This is the shade Shell Ivory. I think we'll just swatch these kind of on the side of my hand, and you'll see that this one has a very pink undertone. I think this is probably one of the shades I'll get very little use out of because the undertone is so pink. I have a very olivey yellow undertone, so I find neutral to warm undertones work best for me. The next one I have here is the shade Soft Ivory. This one is also quite fair, but it does, as you'll see, have a bit more of a warm undertone to it. Hopefully you can tell the difference there. So if you are a fair warm undertone, this one I think will be a better fit for you, but hopefully you can see those 2 next to each other, how much pink this one actually has in it. And then the last one that I have here is the shade Soft Beige. And you'll see this one is kind of like a warm medium tone. This one is probably the closest match to me. Forgive all the scarring I have on my arms. So there they are, right there. You'll see this one matches my arm the most. I do have a little bit of self-tan around right now though, so I find that mixing these 2 together works the best for me. So the way I best like to apply this, especially because I have to combine shades together, is I just take one of the paddle swatches and just kind of swatch that on the back of my hand. Then I just swipe the one next to it, and then I'll just take my clean finger and kind of tap those 2 shades together, mix them together before I go onto my face, and you'll see that's going to be a really nice shade match for me. That's one of the great things about this foundation. Because it is so affordable, it doesn't bother me to buy 2 shades to mix 2 together in order to get my perfect shade match. Some drugstore foundations, that does bother me quite a bit, especially if they're a little bit more expensive, because oftentimes if you have to buy 2 bottles of foundation that are maybe $10 to $15 a piece, you end up spending what you would on a high-end foundation when you could actually just go into the store and find your perfect shade match. So I'm just applying this all over with a damp complexion sponge. And I have tried this out with both a brush and a sponge and my fingers, and I really feel like this is a foundation that's pretty flexible in how it works for me. I find it works pretty well with any of those application methods. I think I prefer it with a sponge just because I feel like it maintains that hydration and just makes it feel extra hydrating. But I don't find the sponge to take away too much of the coverage either. It does have pretty good coverage, which sometimes I think can be hard to find with hydrating foundations. A couple people have also commented on the smell. This one definitely smells better than the original Wet n Wild foundation, but it does have a very perfumey smell to it. It's not too strong, but it's definitely more perfumed than the original one was. But I don't mind it. Honestly, I didn't mind the original smell as much as a lot of people did. Hopefully you guys can kind of see the finish that gives. It just has a really nice, soft glow to it. It's just really, really pretty. I don't know, it's been a while since I've been this excited about a drugstore foundation. I think if you were to compare this to the Flower Beauty one, I would say this one's not quite as glowy as the Flower Beauty foundation is, but it definitely has the same like hydrating feel on the skin with just a little bit more of like a satin. I wouldn't call this a satin finish. I think it's a little more dewy than a satin finish, but it's also not dewy necessarily. I don't know if that made very much sense to you guys. Hopefully you can kind of see it. I feel like I can see it on camera. For today, I have kind of gone back and forth on powdering this foundation. I think I am going to powder just my cheek areas today because we are going to be testing out a new bronzer and blush. So I'm just going to take a little bit of my Rimmel Stay Matte powder and just tap a tiny bit of that just on my cheeks and my forehead area. And now we're going to move into concealer. So the concealer that I'm trying out today is the e.l.f. new Hydrating Camo Concealer. So I did talk a little bit about this concealer in one of my recent videos, and I was worried about the shade match. So this is the shade I initially got. This is the shade Medium Sand. So I'm going to swatch this on the back of my hand. This is the shade Medium Sand in the new Hydrating Concealer. And then this one right here is the shade Medium Sand in the original 16-hour concealer. I just want to show you the difference between these two. It's not as drastic as I thought it was going to be, but there is a difference. I mean, can you guys see those two? Okay, there's a pretty significant difference actually. Look how dark this Medium Sand is versus this one. This one's a pretty good shade match for me, especially when I have a little bit more tan to my skin. It works really well for the perimeter of my face. But this one is going to be significantly too dark for me. However, I was very fortunate to see that my local Walmart also recently got some new e.l.f. stock in, and they did have this concealer in stock. So I ended up picking up a lighter shade of this one. I got the shade Fair Warm. They did have one shade that I felt like would match me probably a little bit better. This one I think might be a little bit too light for me, but I wanted to maybe combine these two shades together. But I ended up going with the lighter shade just so I didn't have to throw this one away or get rid of this one. I figured if I got the lighter shade, I could make this one work and mix them together. But hopefully seeing these two swatched next to each other will help you guys determine kind of what the range is going from fair down to medium, and also what it looks like compared to their original concealer. But for today, I'm just going to take a couple of dollops on the back of my hand of the two, and we're going to mix these together. I think I'm kind of going to take 2 parts of the light to 1 part of the dark, and I feel like that will get me kind of where I need to be. And then I'm just going to dot that right in this hollow under my eye, right on this outer corner. And then I also want to put a little bit here on the side of my nose. I have some spots to cover on my chin. And then I'm going to prime one of my eyes with this concealer. On the other eye, we're actually going to be using the e.l.f. Putty Primer, but I wanted to test it out on just one eye so we could see which one held up better. I'm just going to go in with the same sponge that I was using before and tap that in. So I have also used this concealer a few times since getting it a few days ago, and so far I'm really enjoying it. I enjoy it a lot more even than I enjoyed their first concealer. I haven't noticed it breaking me out yet, but I will say this original 16-hour camo concealer, if I use it for say 7 days in a row, I notice that it can start to break me out, especially in kind of my jaw and my chin area. And I don't know if I've used this one consistently enough yet to see if it does the same thing. It's not super severe to where I don't want to reach for this one. I just have to be careful that I don't use it consecutively, and then it doesn't seem to be an issue for me. And again, you guys, I apologize. I have a feeling my voice is going to be completely gone by the end of this video. I didn't realize before I sat down to film this how sick I even really sounded, because to be honest, I've really just been resting the last few days and probably have not been talking a whole lot, and it's one of those things that you don't really notice until you start talking. Oh, I really don't sound very great. So I am now just going to take a little bit of that Rimmel powder, and I'm going to set the concealer I put on this eyelid down before it creases. So finishing off with the complexion, I did pick up their primer infused bronzer in the shade Forever Sunkissed. I also got one of their primer infused blushes in the shade Always Rosy. I've heard really good things about these. Andrea Motilano has been talking about them for quite a long time. These are not necessarily new. I think they've been out for a little while, but I have not seen them in store yet, and I haven't had a chance to pick them up yet, and I'm really excited to give them a try. While I was ordering on the e.l.f. website, I also grabbed this little brush right here. This is their Beautifully Bare blending brush. It's kind of their travel sized blending brush. I was really hoping that this would have that kind of paddle shape that I've been looking for in a bronzer brush. I know I've talked about this a few times with you guys. I feel like this might be a good fit. It's a little bit more pinched than I was hoping it would be. We'll see if it, as I wash it and use it a little bit, if maybe it starts to fluffen up a little bit, but we're gonna give it a try today. I'm just gonna start kind of building this up on my cheeks. I like the color so far. It's really nice and subtle and buildable, which is just how I like my bronzer to be. Alright guys, let's move into the blush. So this is the shade that I picked up. This is the shade Always Rosy. I'm going to try and go in with a really light hand because I don't want to overdo it with this blush. I'm not quite sure how pigmented it is. I really like that shade. I feel like I might have gone a little bit overboard. I'm going to just kind of tap my sponge around the edge just to kind of diffuse that a little bit. Alright, for the highlighter, I picked up this right here. This is from Makeup Revolution. This is their Reloaded highlighter in the shade Just My Type. I think I heard Taylor Wynn talking about this. It looks so pretty inside the pan. I don't know, it just kind of is sitting up above the pan, which makes me a little bit nervous about how this is going to hold up. I've tried a few highlighters out from Makeup Revolution before, and a couple of them have shattered, so I hope that this one holds up a little bit better than those. Let me go ahead and just swatch this on the back of my hand for you guys, though. Ooh, that's so pretty. So I'm going to take that on this little brush right here. This is from the BH Cosmetics set that I got over the holidays. This is their number 4 highlighting brush. And I'm just going to apply that just as I normally do with any highlighter. Ooh, yeah, got a little bit much right there. I'm just going to tap my damp blender over the top. Okay, so far so good. I feel like my complexion looks really nice. I do want to go in and do my brows really quickly. I'm going to take my Ultra Slim brow pencil. I did pick up 4 more of these. They had them on sale, buy 2 get 2 free, which is such a great deal, and I'm so happy to be stocked up on these things because you guys know how much I love this pencil. So I'm going to add this to my brows and I'll be right back with you guys. Alright, so now the part that I think most of us are most excited for, the eyeshadow. So I did end up picking up 6 of the mini bite-size eyeshadow quads from e.l.f. So the 6 that I picked up, and I will insert some swatches for you guys here. First off, I got Berry Bad. Then I also picked up Carnival Candy, Hot Jalapeno, Pumpkin Pie, Rose Water, and the last one is Truffles. As much as I think these are beautiful, a lot of them I feel like are lacking a lighter tone, either for the shimmer or for the brow bone, just something that's a little bit lighter to put on the center of the lid, which I typically like to do. Granted, that's not a huge deal breaker for me because I don't mind going in with my highlighter that I'm using on my face to add that brightness where I need it, either on my inner corner or on my inner lid. But I can see how some people might find these to be a little bit limiting because of that reason. They do look really pretty though. I am very excited to give them a try, but I'm really on the fence which one to try out for you guys today. I think this Rose Water one looks so pretty, but I have been definitely doing a lot of pink and purple tones on my channel lately, and I kind of maybe want to save this one for another time, but this is definitely one of the ones I'm most excited about. I think the one I'm leaning towards today is the one Truffles. I really like this kind of cooler toned shimmer, and I feel like it'll go with what I'm wearing today, but I'm really excited to try all of these. I can't wait to give this Hot Jalapeno one a try. I think that is so pretty, but I think for today I want to stick with the Truffles one. I kind of want to just stick with one, just so you guys can see what kind of a look I can get out of with just one of these. I'm kind of wishing that the transition shade in here was just a little bit lighter, but I think that we can make it work. Before we dip into it though, I am going to add a little bit of this eye primer on my left eye. If you'll remember, I did not prime that one with concealer yet. So I ended up going with the Putty Primer in the shade Cream, which looks to be just a nice kind of medium to light toned skin tone color. I'm just going to try applying this with my finger. So I'm just taking a little bit of that on my ring finger, and we're just going to apply that all over the lid. It definitely has the feeling of just a pot concealer. Be interesting to see if it has a little bit more grip to it than a pot concealer would have. I am going to set that in place because I would probably do this with pretty much any other eyeshadow primer. So I'm just going to take a little bit of my Rimmel Stay Matte powder. Again, it's just the tiniest bit of this. I'm just going to set that down before it starts to crease, if it does start to crease. And then hopefully by the end of the day we'll be able to tell if the concealer held up better or if the eyeshadow primer held up better. Now we're going to dip into the Truffles palette. I'm going to take my Morphe M504 brush. I'm going to start off with this lighter brown. Okay, that's not too bad. I'm just going to try and slowly build that up above my crease. And that reminds me, a couple of you guys asked me to zoom in, so I'm going to zoom you guys in and then we'll get back to the eyeshadow. Okay, hopefully this is a little bit easier to see. So far these are blending really nice. Like super quickly. I like this shade. It's not too warm, but it's also not too cool. Really nice brown shade. So far I'm impressed. That was really quick. I'm going to take my Juvia's Place small buffer brush. I'm going to take that same color and we're going to start buffing that on the lower lash line. Now I'm going to go into the darker brown right here. This looks quite dark, so I'm going to go pretty light-handed with my Wayne Goss brush. Just put a tiny bit on the very tip of it. And I'm just going to start kind of swirling that just right in this outer corner right here, just to add some depth. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys something kind of interesting. I feel like this side went on super easily, super seamlessly. I didn't have any trouble with it at all. This side is giving me a little bit of patchiness. I don't know if you guys can see this little corner right here. Hard to know exactly what is going on with this. The most obvious thing for me to think is that it might be the primer that's causing this to be a little bit more patchy on me. Maybe I didn't set down this corner as much as I needed to. It's also possible that maybe I just started off with a little bit too much product on my brush when I went in on this side. I can't say for certain right now because I think either of those things are a definite possibility, but I can definitely tell this side was super easy and smooth and blended out without any sort of hiccup at all, but this side is giving me a little bit of trouble and is a little bit patchy right there. So that is something I have my eye on. I think it's going to take me a couple more times playing with the primer, also playing with the shadows to figure out what caused that today. But hopefully you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. See this little spot right there? Whereas this side just seems perfectly smooth and seamless. But it is something I'm noticing that I'll definitely have to keep you guys posted on. I'm going to go back into the lighter brown shade. I'm going to add a little bit more of this just through that outer corner and through my crease to try and really just to help me with the patchiness on this side. I don't really need this on this side, but because I'm doing it to this side, I want to do it to the other as well. I will say this is definitely a very dark shade, and I know that darker shades can often give you a little bit more trouble when it comes to patchiness. But that said, I have to say the undertone of these browns are gorgeous. I'm going to try one more thing to fix that. I'm going to go in with my Morphe M507, and I'm just going to take a mixture of these two shades right here. Tap off the excess, and just really carefully try and place that right where that little area of patchiness is. And I'm going to try and just kind of tap it rather than swirl it. I feel like that did help just a little bit. Still not wowed by this corner right here though. Does not look as good as this corner does. That's okay though, it happens sometimes. And sometimes it's the shadow and sometimes it's just user error. So again, I feel like I need some more time with these. Now we're going to go into the taupe color right here, and I'm just going to place that all over the inner kind of half to 2/3 of the lid. This is pretty much going to cover my whole lid. I'm also hoping by putting this kind of out on this outer corner, that will help me disguise some of that patchiness a little bit. And now back in with my M507 brush, I'm going to take just the lighter brown right here and take a little bit of that and just feather that through this outer corner right there. All right, now I think I want to take for liner today, rather than doing a pencil liner, which I typically do, I'm just going to take a flat liner brush and I'm going to dip into both the black and the dark brown and mix those two together and just lightly add this to my outer lash line. And then back into my M507 brush. There's nothing left on this brush. I'm just lightly dusting that over the edge of that liner just to take off any of that excess powder there, just because I don't want it to transfer up on my lid. I find this to help take off any excess so that it doesn't move around onto my lid later. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the eyes. I'm going to add a little bit of mascara, then I will zoom you guys back out and we will finish off with the look. Alright you guys, so here are the finished eyes. I have to say I really love how this little palette looks on the eyes. I love the cooler tone mixed with just the neutral browns. I do have to say this shimmery shade right here, as I was applying it to my eyes, I was like, this reminds me so much of another shade in my collection. And it dawned on me that what it actually reminds me of is this shade right here from NARS, the shade Cashmere, which is such a great single eyeshadow. I wanted to just swatch them for you guys so you can kind of see. So here is the NARS shadow. It's kind of a silvery taupe, and you'll see the e.l.f. one next to it is very similar. I think the e.l.f. one is a little bit even more cool toned, more silvery and less kind of taupey brown, but they look so similar on the eyes, especially combined with the browns in the crease. So maybe not dupes for each other, but awfully close, and considering the price difference of these two, that's pretty incredible. So for my mascara, I just went in with a little bit of the Milani Highly Rated mascara first, and then topped that with a little bit of the Collab mascara. But we're just about done. I do have a couple of new things for the lips to try out for you guys. I did get a lip liner from Essence. This is the 8-Hour lip liner. This one is in the color Because Duh 01, which I think is kind of a silly name, but that's alright. So here's what it looks like. It's just kind of a nice, really nice neutral color. I'm very interested to try this one out. It was super affordable. I think this was on sale for just like $2 or something. I also recently picked up these two lipsticks at my Walmart. This one has been around for a while. This is from Maybelline, and I think this one I got on recommendation of Melissa M. This is the shade Romantic Rose. I've been wearing this for the last 3 or 4 days and absolutely loving this soft pink color. But I also noticed the last time I was at Walmart picking up the Wet n Wild foundation that Wet n Wild now has some new packaging for their lipsticks. They have these white ones, which I think are a new formula. I could be wrong about that, but I haven't tried these out, I don't believe. But they also have these in black with the little lip icon on it, which I know is supposed to look like the Pat McGrath lipsticks. But they're original matte lipsticks that people have talked about for years and years and years here on YouTube are now packaged in the black version of these. Thought about grabbing a couple of those and comparing them to the original ones that I have to see if the formula is still the same. Let me know if you guys are interested in that. I can do that at a future time. But this one, as you can see, is a much more creamy formula. In fact, I have worn this one a few times and it reminds me, the feel of this and the shine that this gives reminds me a lot of the L'Oreal Shine lipsticks that came out. When did those come out? About a little over a year ago. So I thought for today we would try out the Wet n Wild one. So I'm going to go in with the Essence lip liner first and add just a little bit of that to the lips. Then I'm going to add a little bit of the Wet n Wild lipstick on top. Okay, so that is pretty much everything. I feel like I need a little bit more blush. I'm going to go in with my blush brush again and just add a tiny bit more blush on the tip here. And just add a little bit more to my cheeks. Alright, and with that, that completes this makeup look. I really am happy with how this one turned out. So it is currently 11:31. I do want to do a wear test with this makeup today. I'm going to try and wear it as long as I can. I want to get at least 6 to 8 hours out of this and see how it wears throughout the day, especially the foundation, the concealer, the eyeshadow, and the eyeshadow primer. So I will do a check-in for you guys in a couple of hours, but here is how everything looks right now. I am super happy with everything so far. I think the eyeshadow looks beautiful. The complexion looks amazing. The only thing I'm not happy with right now is my hair, but that's not the makeup's fault. That's what happens when you pull your hair back and your hair is still a little bit damp and you have curly hair. That never bodes very well, but that's okay. But for now, that is it. I will check in with you guys in just a little bit and we will see how everything held up. Alright guys, it is the end of the day for me, 7:27, so the makeup has been on for just about 8 hours, and this is what everything is looking like right now. Now, I think for the most part, everything held up pretty nicely. My complexion right now does look a little bit dewy. I don't know if you can tell, just the center of my forehead and just kind of around my nose and my chin is looking a little bit more glowy than I typically notice with a lot of my foundations. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but I do think if you are someone that does have more normal to combination or oily skin, it definitely might be an issue for you. Perhaps that's something that could be remedied by just a little bit of touch-up powder, but I really like how this one sits on my skin. I do feel like right here in the center, because it is a little bit oily, I do feel like it's emphasizing my pores just right here by my nose. But everywhere else on my face, I feel like it looks really nice. As for the concealer, I feel like the concealer has held up really nicely, and I've been, again, testing this out for a few days and been very, very impressed with this concealer. As for the cheek products, I can still see them on my cheeks. I don't know how well you guys can see the bronzer and the blush right here, but I definitely can still see them kind of peeking through a little bit. And 8 hours for me is a pretty good wear time. Generally speaking, bronzer and blush tends to wear off of me before the 8-hour mark, so I feel like they did pretty well. As for the eyes, I'm going to zoom you guys in just a little bit and see if you can see what I have going on here on my eyelids. This is the side that I primed with just the concealer, and this is the side that I primed with the e.l.f. Putty Eye Primer. I do think that this side is worn off a little bit more. I can see a little bit of creasing and patchiness on this inner corner right here, whereas this side looks pretty darn good actually. So I do think that the Putty Eye Primer held my shadow in place a little bit better. Now if you'll remember, I did have a little bit of issue with patchiness on this eye, so that's something that I will continue to test out and try and keep you guys updated on in a future video. I'm pretty happy with how things look. I am noticing on both sides actually a little bit of that powder liner transferred up onto my brow bone just a little bit right there, but that is pretty standard, especially when I'm using a powder liner. But yeah, so far I'm really impressed with how these were today. The last thing I wanted to touch on was the lipstick. I did just reapply this before filming this check-in. I did not expect that this would be long wearing at all. It is a very creamy, moisturizing, almost glossy sort of lipstick formula, but I really like the way that this feels on my lips. It's very easy to reapply. It's one of those formulas that's not too thick or gloopy to where you couldn't apply it if you don't have a mirror. It's one I'd be perfectly comfortable applying in the car as I'm driving without looking, and I really think the formula is really, really nice. Again, it does remind me a lot of the L'Oreal Shine lipsticks, just the moisturizing glossy feel of it. I don't think I ever mentioned what shade I have. This is in the Mad for Mauve shade, but I really love this formula. I think it's really, really nice. But with that, that completes my wear test of these new drugstore makeup products. I would love to know if you guys have tried out any of these, if they have worked out for you, how you are enjoying them. I'd also love to know from you guys which of the mini e.l.f. quads you'd like to see show up in a future video. Let me know which color story you're most interested in seeing me test out for you guys. Thank you again for stopping by. I hope that you guys enjoyed this one. I hope you enjoyed seeing these products put to the test. I will try to keep you guys updated on some of these things as I continue to test them out over the next couple of weeks. But so far, I have to say, this was a pretty big win for the drugstore today. But that is all I have for you guys. One more reminder, if you are not yet subscribed to my channel, I hope that you'll consider doing that before you leave. I hope that you have a great day or a great night, whatever time it is that you're watching this video. And I will see all of you very soon in my next one. Bye. And I've probably been wearing this. Oh my gosh, notifications, turn off. There we go, sleep. Thank you. I do have my kids home from school today though. My son already brought me a drink of water.
Oh yeah, no school.
Woohoo! Holy notifications.